Aries, the week of July 26th to August 1st, 2026, is genuinely one of the most significant weeks of the entire year, and a huge amount of it lands directly on you. Saturn stations exactly retrograde on July 26th at 14 degrees Aries, in your own first house, joining Neptune, which is already retrograde there. On top of that, the lunar nodes shift axis this same day, moving into Aquarius and Leo, and the week builds toward a full moon in Aquarius on July 29th, conjunct Pluto, exactly opposite the Sun's rare conjunction with Jupiter in your own fifth house. 6 major storylines are converging almost on top of each other, and very few weeks in a given year carry this much genuine astrological weight. This is not a quiet week to coast through. Let's go through what it actually means for your money, your relationships, and your energy using the real sky, not generic guesswork stretched across 7 days. Money and career move quietly this week compared to everything else happening overhead. But there's still real information here. The moon opens the week in Capricorn, your 10th house of career and public standing, from Sunday through Monday night, which puts a practical, disciplined mood over any work decisions made early in the week, good for finishing something concrete rather than starting something speculative. Use Sunday and Monday for the boring but necessary tasks, paperwork, following up on something you agreed to, tying off a loose end at work that's been sitting half-finished. The bigger story arrives midweek. Venus in Virgo, sitting in your 6th house of work and daily routine, forms an exact square to Mars in Gemini, your 3rd house of communication, on July 28th into the 29th. This is a tension aspect, not a disaster, but it does mean friction is likely between how carefully you want a piece of work done and how quickly someone, possibly you, wants to move through it. A coworker or client conversation may feel more clipped than usual. Don't mistake Mars's speed for carelessness. And don't mistake Venus's need for polish for stalling. Both instincts are valid. They're just pulling in different directions this week. If a work disagreement flares up around Tuesday or Wednesday, address it directly rather than letting Mars's impatience turn into unspoken irritation that leaks out sideways. By the end of the week, as the moon moves into Pisces on Friday, the pace softens considerably, and whatever tension built up midweek has room to settle without needing a big resolution scene. Use Saturday to simply observe how the week's friction resolved, rather than forcing a tidy conclusion before you're ready. Relationships carry the sharpest edge of the week, and it's worth naming clearly. The same Venus-Mars square active in your work sector also touches how you relate one-on-one, because Venus and Mars are literally the relationship planets, and a square between them rarely stays contained to just one area of life. Expect a noticeable gap this week between what you want from someone, warmth, attention, reassurance, and what they're actually offering, which under Mars and Gemini might look more like quick words than sustained closeness. If you're partnered, this can show up as a disagreement that seems to be about something small. A scheduling conflict, a joke that landed wrong, but is really about a mismatch in pace. If you're single, you might feel pulled between wanting something steady and being drawn to someone who keeps things light and fast. Neither instinct is wrong, but the square is asking you to notice the gap rather than pretend it isn't there. It's worth remembering that squares aren't punishments. They're friction that forces growth. This particular one is teaching you to ask for what you actually want in plain language instead of hoping the right person simply intuits it, which is a skill Mars and Gemini can genuinely help you build if you let the tension do its job instead of avoiding it. Then comes the week's true centerpiece for you, Aries, arriving Wednesday, July 29th. The full moon lands in Aquarius, your 11th house of friendships, community, and future goals, conjunct Pluto, and it forms an exact opposition to the Sun's rare type conjunction with Jupiter in your own 5th house of romance, creativity, and self-expression. A full moon always asks you to look at 2 things at once, because it's an opposition by nature. And this one is asking you to weigh personal joy and self-expression, your 5th house, against your place within a community or friend group, your 11th house. You might feel this as an actual choice this week. Do you show up for something personally exciting, a creative project, a romantic moment, a chance to shine? Or do you show up for a group commitment, a friend, a shared cause? The Sun-Jupiter conjunction is famously generous and lucky, sometimes called a cazimi when this exact, and it's happening in the most personally expressive part of your chart. So don't be surprised if something delightful, even a little larger than life, shows up around midweek. Recognition, a burst of confidence, an invitation that flatters you. Just don't let it fully eclipse the pull toward your people that the full moon in Aquarius, conjunct heavyweight Pluto, is also asking you to honor. Pluto's presence at this full moon suggests that whatever comes up around friendship or community this week carries more depth than a passing social moment. An old group dynamic may need an honest, even uncomfortable, look. Energy and health are where the heaviest, most important work of the week is actually happening, even though it's the quietest to observe from the outside. Saturn stations exactly retrograde on July 26th at 14 degrees Aries, directly in your 1st house, the house of your body, your identity, and how you show up in the world. Saturn entered your sign back in February, opening a new 29-year cycle of self-leadership, and this retrograde, lasting until December, marks the first real pause to look honestly at what the last 5 months have built or avoided building. A station is not a passing influence. Saturn appears to hang nearly motionless in the sky this week. And that stillness translates astrologically into intensity, pressing its themes harder than an ordinary transit would. Expect this week specifically to feel like a natural checkpoint, even if nothing external forces it. Neptune, already retrograde in the same house since early July, adds a layer of fog to this self-examination. You may find it genuinely hard some days this week to tell the difference between legitimate tiredness and a story you're telling yourself about being tired. Trust your body's signals over your mind's narrative when the two disagree. Physically, this is a week for honest rest rather than performative rest, meaning actual recovery rather than simply lying down while still mentally spinning about everything on your list. If you can, protect at least one evening this week, ideally Sunday or Monday, while the moon is still in steady Capricorn, for genuine stillness rather than scrolling or half-resting. Aries, before we wrap up, there's one more piece worth understanding, because it explains why this week feels bigger than a single day's news. There's a bigger shift underneath all this. The lunar nodes moved on to a new axis this same week, with the North Node entering Aquarius, your 11th house, and the South Node settling into Leo, your 5th house. This sets the tone for the next 18 months, not just this week, and it's not a coincidence that it lands right alongside Saturn's station. The 5th house, personal self-expression, has been your familiar, well-practiced path. The North Node is asking you to stretch towards something less instinctive, real investment in other people's goals, not only your own spotlight. Notice this week whether your free time is entirely self-directed, or whether some of it goes toward a friend's project or a shared cause. So here's where this leaves you, Aries, heading into August. Saturn and Neptune ask you to sit honestly with your own body and identity. The Venus-Mars square asks you to notice the real gap between what you want from people and what they're actually offering. And the full moon hands you a genuine choice between personal shine and collective belonging. Right as the nodes quietly redirect your longer path toward the latter. None of this needs a dramatic decision today, just attention all week to where your energy is going. If you remember one thing, the loudest planets are asking who you are, the middle ones are asking who you love, and the full moon is asking who you belong to. If this reading resonated with you, hit like and subscribe.